think they ought to go back to their own country when the English bloke's got to work hard for his money and they can get it off the national assistance without even working.
And white people not having a home and coloureds coming along and crowding out, paying one lot of taxes for about 30 people in a house.
Well, you've got the government to blame for it, really. I mean, they should have stopped this immigration long ago. They know what trouble it caused. They know the country's only small.
They're not all ignorant, I know, because I've had some working for me and been intelligent people.
The way that we look at it, we try to live the best we can with them, you see, and that's the way they should try to live with we.
We were going to a mother country.
We only thinking that we're going to come here for 5 years.
It was a dream, really.
We thought it was paved with gold, but it wasn't as good as we thought, you know.
6 o'clock in London, I was in Stoke-on-Trent for 11. I was in Shelton Bar at the workplace for 12.
Yeah, we don't know so life rough and tough, you know. I can't throw them shits them set up. Nevertheless, don't give up, you know. Fight the struggle.
Jamaica opportunity, you know, wasn't that great. The school system was poor. They have one university for the whole Caribbean. They have a few good colleges, which was expensive to go to. Coming to England was the best we had. Are we going to work on the farm? Or cut cane? I mean, the opportunity wasn't that great. But here, the opportunity was that great either, but you couldn't tell till you come to it. No particular reason, because more or less everybody was just going to the UK because there the Queen come out there, Princess Margaret come out there. So everybody just, because England and Jamaica was pretty close in those days, you know. So coming to the UK was just like coming, who really are coming to another Caribbean island to go say it was nice.
I came here when I was 14 years of age, went to school, finished my schooling over here. From here I went to work in Papa. It was like a foundry and all that thing. When I went there I was on 25. When I leave and went to the mine. But I used to do 3 shifts. It's like go from home to home. It was filthy, don't get me wrong. It was a filthy job. But when you have a friend for life. So wherever you go to see a miner, there's always friendship, you understand?
Coolidge Community Multicultural Association actually started from the roots was in the 1980s, and all the members, the original members, are still here with us today. They serve the entire community as it is. We have members reaching as far out as Stafford. We not only multicultural, but we've become international in the sense that we have been funding places like Haiti and sending money through the Jamaican High Commission. We are also an association where people can come and meet from every background and actually feel as though they're part of each other. They can become friends. They can learn about cultural things, learn about each other's roots, and they can sit back and become members. Coolidge Community Multicultural Association is one of the oldest foundations that we have of the black community in Stoke-on-Trent, and we welcome all people, all backgrounds, and we are traditionally for socializing and for functions, for holding meetings. We can accommodate people from various backgrounds, and we are actually always have open doors for things like weddings, funerals. We hope that people are always willing to come and approach us because we're very, very approachable. We hope that this film would not only just reach the minority, but we hope that it will reach the majority of people within this community and other communities.
Rock you cool and deadly, Original vibrations I do play.
I was born in Jamaica, in Kingston, Jamaica, at the Jubilee Hospital in Kingston. And prior to that, my parents who were both from St. Mary in Jamaica, the parish of St. Mary. Jamaica is divided into 3 counties, Cornwall, Middlesex and Surrey, and then it's subdivided again into parishes. So my paternal and maternal parents, grandparents and parents, are from St. Mary. My dad lived in America for many, many years in the 40s. My mother always wanted to be a nurse, and of course back then in the early 50s, I think it was about probably 1953, I think it was, my mother came to England first and to train to be a nurse, and then my father came a few months after that. At that time, I think it was Enoch Powell was the Member of Parliament, and it's kind of like just after the war and stuff like that, and he went over to a lot of the Caribbean islands. I don't know about other parts, but I know the Caribbean islands, to encourage people to come to England, to train as nurses, drive the buses, conductors, whatever. So as I said, my mother wanted to be a nurse, so she took the opportunity to come. And then I was left with my grandmother and my maternal grandmother in a place called R.I.P in St. Mary. I went to kindergarten from the age of 3 until probably about 6, and then I went to boarding school, prep school, until I came to England at the age of 11.
Jamaica, St. Elizabeth. Come here in 1957. I'm a farmer's son. As me tell him, my original grandfather is from Scotland. And then come to the Caribbean and married to this African woman. And have 23 children, with different women. I mean, Churchill was out there, the Queen come out there, Princess Margaret come out there. So everybody does, because England and Jamaica was pretty close in those days, you know. So coming to the UK was just like coming home really, coming to another Caribbean island. People say it was 9,000 miles away, which I didn't know that. I mean, in Jamaica, opportunity, you know, wasn't that great. The school system was poor. They have one university for the whole Caribbean. They have a few good colleges, which was expensive to go to. So if you don't have money, you ain't going to get no education. Even now, in the Caribbean, if you don't have money, you don't get any education. So, because there was that many English people in the Caribbean, you didn't look at it any different. Because them used to run everything, innit? They run the church, they run the post office, they run the school, they run everything. So if them run everything, you're part of them every day. So coming to England wasn't a big problem.
My name is Sharon Dockery and I'm the wife of Mike Dockery. I was born in Jamaica and lived in Jamaica. I went to summer schools in America, and I had mainly American and Canadian teachers at school in Jamaica. I came because I was meant to finish my schooling. My mom was here. My dad was in America. My mom was here, and I had lived with my auntie, but they thought schooling in England was good, and it was thought at that time that schooling would be best. So that's one of the reasons why I came. So I really felt, when I started having our children, I wanted to go back to Jamaica with them because schooling in Jamaica was much, much better. It was a higher standard. So I really wanted my children to be schooled in Jamaica, but it just wasn't feasible.
Well, my old man come from America, 1942. He went to America in manpower, go and work when time they was packing ammunition like in Illinois. And when he come back to Jamaica, he have 12 sons, 4 daughters, and all of us was on plantation. Nobody go to college. And when he come home in 1954, he says that, says his mom to my mother, he said, well, none of the boys go to college and they becoming man. So they got to go and make a route for themselves. So he said to the old lady that I'm going to England to see what it's like. Because in America then they would train away your money. There was work in them time, the war in America. And my father says to my mother, said, he's coming to England. And my old lady says, you're too old. My father said, I'm not going to see what it's like. Because he wasn't poor. In 1945, he had £6,000 in the bank. I come from a rich family. No work for nobody. We have plantation where you can't finish, walk out. You know, and all of us go and grow up on the farm. And all of us work with the old man and bill him. And when I came here in 1955, I cut about more than 100 ton, more than 200 ton of sugar cane. You know, delivered to sugar estate and at a plantation. But so I didn't know what poverty was. But in them those you were boy, you're working for your father, you couldn't put the money in your pocket. Because at 20 I was a boy. When I came as a boy, 20-year-old, but you couldn't call out lad now 20 boy.
They come from Jamaica, in a little parish called St. Andrew. Everybody they were opening different opportunities for people that want to travel. Some of the men went to Florida, went to America to farm work. Some came to England here, because at that time it was wide open to anybody that wanted to travel. Because we only thinking that we're going to come here for 5 years and go back home. We've work enough money so that we can go back home and we live better than we were living. We got 3 children, which we left back home with their aunt.
Let's talk more action. Your love it me.
I was born in Portland, Jamaica, in the West Indies. Little place called Cascade. Well, it's funny. Everybody was immigrating. And I remember the time when the Queen visited Kingston, and she said she was looking for people, young people, to come to England who was willing to work. And there would be jobs provided. And I thought, well, it was paradise. England, heard so many things about England, and we thought we were coming to the land, the holy land, the land of riches, and the land that everything possesses, So I thought, well, everybody was immigrating, and I was quite young, so I'll take a chance.
My name is Claudette Mullings. I was daily before, as anyone would know. And I'm from a family of 9, 5 girls and 4 boys, of which we all went to school in Jamaica. I went to a school called Salem in Westmoreland. I went to the elementary school in Beeston Spring. My mother sent me to do dressmaking, of which I did mastered it.
The school that we went to was more or less with English background. So therefore a lot of things. And we sing, get an Empire Day, get the longest bamboo cane you can get and sing, rule, Britannia, Britannia rules the way. Britain never shall be slave. You see, so we understand that we were going to a mother country. I mean, I don't know for anyone else, but when we come from Jamaica, we thought we were coming to a mother country. And we thought the standards and everything should have been the same that we were grown up into, because we were only coming to Great Britain.
Big changes. The sheer number of people, and every street have a name. Which in the Caribbean, there's no street name. So that was my first problem, is how I was going to find my way around. Because every street have a name, and if you forget the name, how do you find the street? I mean, simple thing like that you would notice. But that was one of my biggest problems. If I don't remember the street, how do I get back home? The bus didn't have a number. If you miss the bus number, how do I get home? So those things was, more than what people saying. To survive day to day was a big problem. For the whole culture changes, just like that. It's one culture today, and it's another culture tomorrow. You speak English, but you don't speak the same English.
Your road is don't fuckly muggly, a long time the whole of we a struggle. 2D R.I.P on the double. No more trouble. Bulking alongside Christy. See me?
I came from Jamaica. I was born in Smithfield district. Post office was Newmarket. And I came to this country in 1960 in October. I came here the 29th of September, and I started to work on the 3rd of October. When I came here, it was hard to get jobs, especially if you're a Sabbath keeper. So my friend sent me down to the pit, because when I went to the labor exchange, they told me that on the building site, I came here as a builder, and they said on the building site is you have color bar. First time I heard the word color bar. So the best place for me is down the pit. But that was a blessing in disguise, because I could be able to work and don't have any problem with the Sabbath. I thank God for that. As time rolled by, we have children. When we came here, our things were very bad. 4 or 5 families live in one house. We got to share one kitchen, one sitting room, one toilet, one bathroom. So we that came here first, our children don't understand, but we are coming from a far way, and we have God to thank for so far that we have reached. And as time goes by, I spent 1 year before I sent for my wife.
I went to the wrist wires and cables in the Newcastle, and I did what I could and what I did not like it also. So I moved to another job, which I went to Mr. Kipling Bakery in Trent Vale, Newcastle, of which I did well. Everybody liked me there because I was a good worker. So I did not have to be watched with whatever I am doing. I left from there again, and then I worked at Johnson's Tile in Stoke, London Road, of which everyone likes me there too, because I wasn't shirker. I wasn't a shirker, so I did well there. And then I was married in 1961. After my husband Amos sent for me, it didn't stay long before I got married. I came up in October 61, and I married in I came up September, and I married in October. Didn't give me much time. So and I had, after that, I was conceived, and I had the first child, which is Dorothy. And the next one is Joseph, and Winston, and the last one is Lorraine.
I mix with people. The last place I lived before I left to Jamaica, I lived into a masonette in Newcastle. And my next door neighbor, an elderly man, he called me his son. He came here to see me. He said, Amos, you're a part of my family. You see, we intermingled so much. When I was up there, if I plant one cabbage, I split it in two. And that's how we interacted. But those days were the days.
I've lived in the Stoke-on-Trent area for about 47 years. I came here because my partner was here, and then he sent for me, and we thought we could make a good future, and with the intention of going back in a few years' time, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way.
Most people plan for 5 years. Everybody planned for 5 years. I didn't really have any plan. I come, so I didn't have a plan. But nearly everybody I met said they want to come 5 years, raise the money, go back, build a house, or buy a piece of land. But 5 years, no, it was a dream, really.
But I was extremely proud of my mum because she went as far as deputy matron of the Manor Hospital in Walsall, you know. And for a black woman to achieve what she had done, even at that time, you know, 60s, 70s, you know, that was quite something. So I'm extremely proud of her. I wanted to be a hairdresser. And then, no, that's not good enough. Because, Jamaicans, there's one thing about it. They might not, even if they haven't got the qualification, they have got great ambition. And their children, their children must be educated. I remember one relative saying to me, education will set you free. Education and manners. I remember my grandmother saying to me, even if you have not got education, as long as you've got manners, it will carry you through, So I applied to this hospital to do my midwifery because the whole intention was, at the back of my mind, I was still going back to Jamaica. I never really ever settled. So I intended to do my midwifery, do my family planning certificate, and I was going to go back to Jamaica and work as a midwife or something to do with family planning. And I did do my family planning certificate, yes. In the days that, in the years, I would say, about racism and stuff, because apparently when they came to England, there was a saying, no dogs, no Irish, and no niggers, something like that. And my parents, they were blessed because when they came to England, most black people apparently came and they had to rent, but my parents were able to pay down or get a mortgage on a terrace house in Wolverhampton. So that was their first home when they came. And Daddy had to when Mummy was doing her training, back in those days when you're doing your midwifery, I had to go through that as well. The second part of your midwifery, you have to live in, not the nurse's home, but live on the district. There's a home where all of you as student midwives would live. And then you would go out with the midwife, whichever midwife you're attached to. So my mum she had to sort of sneak home to look after my sister sometimes because, that was part of the requirement. They had to live on the campus, as it were. My parents then decided that I'm coming up and my grandmother would be coming up. So they decided they wanted to get a bigger house, and also ambitious, they wanted to have a semi-detached house or in a nicer area in Wolverhampton. And my father used to do auctioneering as well, as he called it. I think we would call it, what do we call it over here? Estate agent, I suppose. So he had to go to task with these people now because he put in to buy this house. And the lady accepted the offer, and then when it came to it, unbeknown to my parents, there was some underhand thing going on because this was an all-white area, and my parents would have been now going to be the first black people on that road. So what had happened? The neighbours, not necessarily on either side, but the people on that road, they did not want a black person to work to buy a house on that road. So what did they do? They started to put together, came to see the owner of the house, and suggested that they will put together to get the deposit to buy the house rather than to let my parents have this house. But they couldn't. They couldn't muster the money together. And and then my father then threatened the lawyer, when I say threatened, but he said, I know my rights, I've done this kind of work, and I know that I've put my deposit in you better get it sorted out. So anyhow, but the amazing thing is, yes, we got the house, but what had happened is that lady, she was really upset now as well, because by this time she had really decided that she's going to go along with her neighbours and decide not to sell it to my parents. And but what had happened, that those people, unbeknown, and it later came out, I mean, we had beautiful neighbours on either side afterwards, you know, they weren't in with that lot that we're putting together too, but a lot of them, they were renting their houses, so it wasn't even their house. And how dare a black family think that they can come and buy a house and they can't even afford, you know. So that was quite an achievement for my parents, and I just feel, I'm glad the type of people, the tenacity they had to fight and to make sure, you know, they wanted that house, and why should it, because of racism or anything, that they should be denied, you know. So I'm proud that they stood up, because then, you know, that also gave my sister and I that we do not sort of just sit down and crumble, we're as good as anybody else, you know. And that's one of the things that they taught us, you know, that we can believe in ourselves and we can achieve anything that we want to.
My father said, well, he's got to give them a start. So my old man came to England to see what it's like. And they were in London. And he says he sent for me, the brother that me follow, Paul. And they wanted so many in Shelton Bar. And my old lady said, well, you have to do as your father said, because... And I came here, and when I came here, 1955, when I came here, my history in England is, I landed 6 o'clock in the morning. I was in Stoke-on-Trent for 11. 6 o'clock in London, I was in Stoke-on-Trent for 11. I was in Shelton Bar at the workplace for 12. And they wanted me to work at afternoons. I told you I've cried 2 years. Because 2 years in England where I am, nobody ever speak to me but not the foreman at work. And a family. And as long as I live, I remember that not everybody is bad. A man named Jack Taylor and his son. I'm telling you, he was the nicest people I've never met in my life. I tell you, only them would speak to you. Call off and have a joke in the cabin, nobody talk to you. It is the loneliest time I've ever spent. You imagine you leave your brothers and sisters at home, you leave home, the moonshine, where you sit down and talk about girls and eat mangoes and moonshine, no shirt, and everything. You come here, I tell you, I was so unhappy.
Keep those troubles right on down, nobody. Bring those troubles on, yeah, nobody. Bring them troubles, yeah.
Jamaica K Valley, St. Anne's. I came here in 1962. Lived in London for a few years. Came up to an auntie who lived here, who had no children. Came to live with her and stayed with her till I got married, and you know, she went back home. When I first came, I did machining, dressmaking, and then for a little while, then I worked at the hospital for 17 years, just over 17 years. I liked it when I came because I thought the people were very friendly compared to London. You know, it seems to have a lot of time for you compared to London. Because I had relations here and they used to tell you what to expect, sort of thing, about the cold and things you couldn't get, but still it was a bit of a shock. It was still a big shock. In Hanley, when I first came up here, and you asked directions, and I was absolutely amazed the trouble people would go to practically take you to where you want to go. In Stoke, yeah, that was amusing, yeah.
Hey, what a joy! I hear a feeling rise with me queen this morning. From I was a boy, I do the same thing, caring, sharing, and love making. What a
when I came here, I was to, you know, very hard work to start the church here. Very hard work, because really the wages in those days was so small wages. You know, it wasn't as it is today. I was to work very, very hard, 6 days a week. Because running church Bible studies in the homes to get the people together. I used to live in Basford, and I used to walk from Basford to Tunstall to hold Bible studies there, and so on. And very hard, labor very hard in this city, very hard in this city. Until, of course, other churches has opened up other churches. Until today, you can see so many black churches around in Stoke-on-Trent now. When I first came here, Stoke-on-Trent was in a really dilapidated condition. When I left London to come here, when I told the people in London that I'm going up to Stoke-on-Trent, I said, "Wait, is that England? Is that in England?" Stoke-on-Trent still was at the back of the burner. And unrecognized really as a part of England, really. But today it's much different from what it was in my days when I came here. The wages in those days, it was about £10 a week. 10, 20 pounds a week. You had to work overtime to get £20 a week. You could get a property in Stoke-on-Trent for about £1,000. You know, 2 up and 2 down, about £1,000. So, you know, it's very hard work in those days, very hard.
My husband came here December 1958, and I came here July 1959. And my husband, he came to Birmingham and was there for about 6 months working into this engineering place. So actually it closes and we move up to Stoke here in the December. And actually he got a job working in the pit. And it was about 6 months after I came here before I got a job. Because in those days, job was plentiful. But with black people just coming, some people would have jobs and say, well, oh, there's no vacancy. But others do give jobs. The most job that was plentiful at that time, 1958-59, was the pot bank. But I didn't really want to go to work in a pot bank. I always liked to work in a hospital to care for people. So I got a job in Leekmoorlands, and that was in the December 1959. It was a monthly wages, and my first pay package was 6 weeks' wages, because once you started into the month, halfway in the month, you got to wait until the other month before you get. So it's 6 weeks work. And I remember my first wage packet was £32, and that was for six weeks work. But at that time, money could go quite a far way. You could spend and you could buy a lot of food, and we used to go out parties, and we used to go everywhere, Blackpool and all those seaside places at weekend. You know, and really we used to have some good entertainment then, and got enough money to save, and we bought a house, which at 20 Grove Place, got a big house as well in Grove Place in Shelton. And there and then after that we save, yes, and send for the 3 children back home.
Step out and let us party. Violence free, leave your gun.
We thought it was paved with gold, but it wasn't as good as we thought, you know. And I remember it was in October. I was walking in Bursley, and it was so blinking cold going up on Sleet Street. And I thought, tears came to my eyes, and I was crying, and I said, Lord, what have I done to myself to leave a place like sunny Jamaica and to come to a place like this? It was, we went to pit. They says it was pit work. He said it wasn't an easy job. And I thought, well, I never know what it is to do big dirty work. But I'm going to give you this, and this is not, it's quite serious. Take it serious. I said, well, it's funny. I said, in Jamaica, white men, I've never seen them do hard work. They either got our office jobs and dressed in white and well this and have a good job. So I said, I never do these type of hard work because I has grown up not to be that rough. But I said, if these English chap can do it, my God, Morris, I'm sure you can do it. So I did my first job in the pit at Sneed Colliery, you know. I got another friend that lives up the road here, Watlands Avenue, very nicely. That's my brother, my best friend. We're like brothers. And we went into youth work. Myself and Aaron Ice was the two first black guys that get into youth and community work in the city here.
Well, when I came here, we came here in 1962. I was a young man, of course, with my wife and I. And we were in Birmingham first, and 1962, 1963, the weather, we've never seen no winter like that. I don't know if you was around at that time. It's the worst winter we've ever seen. However, what happened, later on, I had friends in this area, and I decided to move to Stoke-on-Trent, which I'm glad we did, because we noticed our children has done better in the country than in the big city. So in 1963, we moved over here, and then we purchased our first house. We've been here over 40 years, aren't we, Del? And of course, we grown up our children here, and they went to university and good school. I was working at the Michelin. I've been working there for 30 years. Also, my wife, we used to work on shift. So it was very hard at the time, because when I am coming in, my wife is going out. And so we were like buses moving out to one another. It was very hard. But anyway, we did manage. And I worked there for 30 years as production until later on I became painter and decorator. And that was my job until I left there. Yes.
Started on the railway and then to wrist wires and cables at Newcastle. Left there and went to Michelin, 17 years. And we left redundant at the Michelin. I've gone self-employed because I'm a builder by trade.
Get a job here and a job there, and when you're young, you was getting no money. Because teenager was over getting £1.25. So we used to keep a lot of party, hire places and keep party, and that's when we meet your dad in the music business as well. Because he was in the music business. Because he could make something out of music. You know, selling paper, selling music, having parties and charge people coming. You know, small money, but better than working. A 9-to-5 job, you know. So I went that for a few years. And went to a lecture on here, a man talking called Sierra James. I don't know if you hear that man before. Sierra James was a
a man who wrote a book called Beyond the Boundary. And he was lecturing at Earl's Court. And he was talking about the connection between Africa and the Caribbean and England, which I didn't really take much notice of when I was younger. And then I went to do some work at a West Indian World newspaper and read a lot about, check the politics of the paper, I realized there was a lot of problem here, which I never really noticed before. So by reading the paper and go sell advertisement for them, but I didn't get paid to sell the paper. And just give me some paper and I have to do the best with them, So you give away some and you sell some. And then after a while, there were some people running a place in Seven Sister Road and called the Black Horse for a lot of youth. Because in 1961, all the young children, parents, have to get them children into England before 63. So a lot of children come up and they start to run away from home. Well, the Home Office didn't know what to do about them, So they started to give us some help to get houses, visit them at prison because the parents wouldn't visit them, really. And look after them. And I do that more or less all my life, really.
Stoke-on-Trent station. Train service 1 is the city train to London Euston. Platform 1 for the intercity train to London Euston.
I came here in 1971. I came to Stoke-on-Trent and did my midwifery. And as I said, the whole idea was to go back to Jamaica. And then I went to the Place nightclub in Hanley, and the rest is history. Boy meets girl, as they would say. That's why I met my husband to be. So when I came to Stoke-on-Trent to work at the hospital, I then met up. There were auxiliary nurses there from Jamaica. So I've just come to, and they took me under their wings. And so I would go to this one's home on a Sunday to have dinner, and next week I'd go to another one's home, So, or any of the other midwives, from Jamaica, then they would take me home with them. Yes, I got into Staffs Union and did social work. That was back, I started in 1999. And then when I qualified, I guess I pushed myself too much, really. I then was doing 3 days work in Stafford, and social work, social services there. And then I did 2 nights in the hospital as a midwife. So, that was quite stressful, and, because both jobs are very stressful. I saw just a little thing in the Sentinel, and it was, would you like to start your own business, and why not start in the market? And I guess I was a little bit toffee-nosed. I thought, I don't know if my hats will go down well in the market, But Nathan, my son, who does marketing, he said, Mom, I think that would be a good idea. It's a good start for you. Although I had the site on the internet, and I had sort of people buying off that, like people from church and so on. But it was, give me a little bit more exposure